Well, it's been a much busier January than we expected here with Viborg in Denmark. The transfer window sees 4 ins, 3 outs and 1 future in as well. But are they going to help us to glory this season? We return for the Europa Conference knockout round and see how many Danish sides get through. Yes, hello and welcome along to part 35 of Rebuilding Viborg with me, Daniel. We are back today for a Europa Conference last 32 game. We're playing Estrela of Portugal, a side that somehow got into this competition and then really struggled domestically. They've worked their way back up to 12th, but they have got a pretty average side by Portuguese league standards, and we'll be hoping we can sneak ourselves a positive result and a first leg advantage playing in front of our own fans. So if you're looking forward to the first leg of that, as well as a chaotic finish to the January transfer window, then please do put a thumbs up on the video. Subscribe for daily FM22 content, including from our other save with Brighton, which continued yesterday. Links to that series in the eye above, as well as the Twitch channel and all the other key playlists, and links to everything else and ways to support the channel down in the description below. But we have got a big first leg today. We're going to do this over 2 episodes because there's a lot of transfer stuff to get through and I wanted to give it its due diligence here. But you can see the bank balance is still looking good. The transfer budget's fine and the wage budget is just about on the border, but we're okay. So we have spent a bit this window and we've tried to get ourselves back into a good position. But is it enough? We're 5 points off the top of the league and Copenhagen are one of the sides above us. We've had a very successful trail of friendlies because we couldn't actually get games against decent sides, so we've ended up playing minnows and winning by an aggregate of 30 goals to nil in our last 2 matches. And we're also still in the Danish Cup, which is the one domestic trophy that continues to elude us. So that's the one I really want to win this year. And we want to go on a run in Europe. So let's see the players that have come in and out to help us with that. And of course, maybe some of them will feature in today's game. So we start not with the ins and outs that have already happened, but one future in for Viborg. And it comes from Mitchell and our rivals, joining on the 1st of July, a young 16-year-old centre-half. And maybe this is a sign of how far we've come, because we're signing players from traditionally our bigger, more glamorous rival. And Sebastian Boylerson is the man who will be joining the club. He will still be 16 years of age in the summer, but he's a centre-half who I think looks pretty good. And I think 1.5 star as a rating is very harsh on him. I'd say he's a 2-star player. He looks a real quality youngster. Got a good personality. Got a good balance of solid attributes and plays for the team. I think he's really talented. He's an under-19 international for Denmark already. I have a feeling we're probably not going to get to see it at this stage in the year, but that he could have been a future star of Viborg. But whether we'll get a little bit out of him, we'll wait and see. He's coming in at the end of this season. Let's move on to the ones that are here for the here and now, because they are the big ones for the rest of this season. So 4 players have come into the club, but let's start with the 3 that have left. And unfortunately, it starts with the star striker. Flavio Sampaio has gone to Nantes. We got 1.6 million for him. There was a big bidding war. Loads of clubs came in. He's picked them. We've got a 30% sell-on clause as well. But with 6 months left on his contract, he basically, on that day he joined them, could have been discussing terms for free. So to get nearly 2 million quid in with the sell-on clause as well, I don't think we can turn it down. But we couldn't get him back on loan. And what a player he is. He's playing 5 games in Ligue 1 already. He's that good. It's a league that's loaded and he's playing for them regularly. He's a super player. Absolutely loved him. He did brilliantly for us. And we're going to miss his goal threat because we didn't really get a top level replacement in. We just had to take a bit of a gamble on a lone player. The other 2 that go out are a younger striker in the form of Rasmus Blaham. He wasn't getting much football and it was starting to hold back his development. So he's gone on loan to Horsens in the 2nd tier. Maybe he can help them back to promotion. But more importantly, he can get some game time because he is a good prospect if he gets his football. The other one that goes is another one in that category. Lucas Molgaard goes down to the 2nd tier. He's one of ours. He came through the academy. He did play a lot of games last season off the bench, but at the moment, he's just not close enough. There's so many ahead of him, and we managed to get 2 centre-halves in January, so he had to go, just so he got game time in the end. So with the exception of Sampaio, a lot of moves thinking about the future there, And of course we've lost a star. But who are the ones coming in? Let's focus on the future. And you can see one of the signings has come from our club in our other series, Brighton and Hove Albion. But let's focus on the others first. And we start with one that led to the most annoying moment of the season so far. Because Ben Williamson, we agreed a deal for him to join at the end of the season, at the end of his contract. His loan finished on the 29th of January. And he came back in on a buy now clause on the 1st of February. The issue is, he wasn't registered for the Europa squad because he'd been considered as leaving the club, which in real life you wouldn't do. You'd have him on your registration list and then you'd keep him on your registration list. Whereas in FM, that little glitch where he ticks out because he's left the club means that we only had 3 replacements for the Europa League, which meant we couldn't then register this guy because we could only put one of the 2 centre-halves in. We've got to balance the squad. So Tobias Sagstuen Andersen is the man who was pre-agreed from Rosenborg. We knew he was coming in. He's a really good young defender. Just turned 23 years of age, can play naturally in the holding role too, which is crucial for our squad game on Sundays after the Thursday nights. Got a fairly professional personality. One of my favourite attributes, he likes to stay on his feet, likes to switch the ball to wide areas, and he's actually better on the ball than a lot of our other centre-halves. Maybe not the quickest, but great in the air. And I'd love to see if he'll score some set-piece goals, because on the Sunday nights in particular, he'll be playing an awful lot of football for us. So he was the first one to join the club, but annoyingly can't play in Europe. The other 3 have all been registered. And we start with a man from Brighton, our other saves club, and it's Antoine Hackford. He is basically the closest replacement to Sampaio we could find. We tried to get a couple of players permanently who rejected us, went to bigger clubs on paper. So Hackford is the man who comes in. Now I'm quite optimistic because he's got a base of really good important attributes. His off the ball movement, his finishing, composure and acceleration, brilliant. But will he be held back in other areas? He's not got the most rounded game, so a bit more of a poacher, but we'll see how it pans out over the year. And then moving on to the other 2, Ben Williamson needs no introduction. £400,000 for the Hibernian midfielder. We could have waited to the summer, but once we lost Sampaio as well, I had to act. We had to get good players in. He's 3.5-star ability now, 4-star potential. Still only 25, the former Scotland under-21 international. And he's a really good player. He's a bit aggressive, he's a bit too brave and he dives into his tackles. But he has been solid for us this year, so I feel like we had to get him back. And he's the best of the ones we could find. So Ben Williamson back at the club. And he was joined on deadline day by Terry Taylor from Stoke. A director of football bid this, but a pleasantly surprising one. Now, the reason I'm most excited about this is another midfielder who can play defensively if need be. But he's a left footer, gives us natural balance again. Really good squad player. And we're looking at the players we might lose in the summer. David Palmer, an attacking player who's been really strong for us. We look at people like Harbo, who won't sign a new deal and is out of contract next summer. And I felt Terry Taylor was too good to turn down. 6 international caps, has played for Stoke, Burton, Grimsby, the likes. And he's just a really solid, rounded footballer. Got a great engine, great fitness. He's 6'1", again, physically imposing. And I just feel for the long term, he's a very good player. Got all of the player traits I like. Carries the ball through the middle, gets into the box when he can, tries long-range passes and switches the ball. If we want to be quick on the counter-attack, Terry Taylor is arguably one of the men for us. So I'll be interested to see how he gets on and how quickly he settles in. But let me know down in the comments, what do you think of that transfer work? Have we improved overall? Yes, we maybe haven't replaced Sampaio, but I'm confident Hackford can do well. And don't forget, it's a chance for this man to step up now. Since Sampaio left, he's been the best trainer, I kid you not, every single week in training. Summer signing Kasper Nowicki, just starting to score goals. And while he's not the same level as Sampaio, I feel like come the end of the year, he might be our man. I'm keeping my eye very closely on him. If we go and have a look at the schedule, we've had a great return from the winter break. A draw to start off against Benfica's reserves in our Portuguese training camp. A narrow win against Firenze and then 2 massive victories. So today we get into the first leg of our Europa Conference knockout. The next episode will be the 2 very next games. And then we're going to get all the way to the league split and see how we can compete for the title or at least wrap up a European spot. So let's get through to the fixtures. Everything's looking great. The dynamics are very solid. We even had a youth intake preview which promises much again. But we saw what happened with that last year, so we're not going to get too excited. 3 Danish sides in action. Brøndby at Slavia Prague. Midtjylland against Hammarby. Can they get revenge for knocking us out in the early stages of Champions League qualifying? Copenhagen not until the last 16 because they won their group. So let's pick our 11 for tonight's big game. See if there's going to be any debutants. And we'll be back in a minute to run through the team for Thursday night's return. And we start our lineup with crucial bad news. Because you could argue the one thing we couldn't afford to lose was our goal scorer Flavio Sampaio. But based on European form this season, the other thing we couldn't afford to lose was David Palmer for a Thursday night. You can see he's returning to fitness, but he's had such a bad injury record that I'd rather just try and stay in the game and have him for the away leg on the counter. So that's what we're going to do. His return will be next Thursday. The rest of the squad, though, is still relatively strong. I've opted to stick with no debutants today, but Hackford, the returning Williamson and Terry Taylor are all on the bench. And of course, if he'd been available, the other lad probably would have been too. But with Carlson, we've got a strong backup centre-half. I felt it was the position we needed least support. But let's go through the entire starting 11, starting with Lerche in goal, who had improved a little bit towards the end before the winter break, and no one went for his release clause again. So we're waiting to see if someone will pay it, because that's probably the point he leaves the club. We've got Anyembi and Real the fullbacks, with Messick and Carter as centre-half, Vitt, Harbo and Cannell the midfield 3, Navicki, Beck and Park the front 3. 2 of those have been subs for most of this season, so if anything, we've got significantly weaker as we go into our hardest game. The knockout rounds of European football is an absolute dream for us, but it could end after just one tie, particularly if we fall to a first leg defeat tonight. Let's go and see if we can avoid that, and if any of our backup strikers can find their goal scoring form. And after a long winter break, what a game for your return from 2 months off of competitive football. Tobias Figueiredo's in their defence, former Hull and Nottingham Forest defender. They've got some other decent players in that team. This is going to be an interesting test. I don't know what happened to them to get into Europe, whether it was a cup win. Let's go and have a quick look actually, because I'm really intrigued by this story. I want to see how they got into Europe. Can we find the league position? No, they just finished 5th last year. Out of nowhere. They've had a really solid season and maybe just not been able to back it up. Just seems to be one of those one-offs. So let's go and get back into the match. We've given the team talk. We're through the tunnel. And you feel if we're going to get through in this tie, we've probably got to get a home result. Because if we go behind when we head to Portugal, I don't see us coming back from it. I mean, we've shocked the odds a few times this year. But given we struggled against Hammarby, this one's probably going to be a little bit trickier. Well, a quiet start to the game, which isn't too bad with 7 minutes on the clock. Park doing a lot of pressing up front, but not really a lot of action or a lot of quality. And it is hard to forget that these two were backups last year. Navicki and Park weren't playing before the winter break. Sampaio and Palmer, 2 of our 3 or 4 best players, and neither of them available here. And one of them will never play for us again, as Barbosa gets the ball to Canute, the skipper on the night for the Portuguese side, to Nanu on the right. Another slight note, this wasn't completely sold out, which frustrated me as well. 9.5 of the 10,000 seats are gone. I'm hoping that's just the away end not being full. It looks pretty full there to me, as it's on the right for Brahimi. Good ball in, good header at the near post as well. Glance just wide. Are there empty seats there in fact? Maybe, it's hard to tell because they play in green and red. And we've got our first goal for a Danish side tonight. It is Brøndby who go ahead away in the Czech Republic. That is a good result for them if they can cling on for it. As Nuno Moreira brought down by Anyembi. I thought that was going to be one of those red card animations. Instead, we're breaking away. Park's challenged. Falls for Beck. He can't make anything of it. We've lost so much quality in the movement. Palmer was always making that run behind the fullback as Nanu goes down the right. Carries it for ages. Nobody's challenging him. Beats Cannell easily. The fullback's disappeared. Nanu goes all the way. And somehow the lad at the front post missed it. It was a wonderful run. But that is far too easy as Drame gets it on the left. They're dominant now. They're starting to carry possession brilliantly. Looking really comfortable on the ball. Looking to break the lines and looking to do it very quickly. It is working well. Nuno Moreira to Drame. Another ball in behind to Brahimi. And he's hit the post. The flag goes up for offside. Oh, we've got English officials. It's Craig Pawson. But yeah, they are slicing us open with consummate ease. Having said that, we've now got to the half an hour point and we haven't yet conceded. Would 0-0 be the worst result? I guess in the away goals day it was a bit better, wasn't it? But not to be now, as Busquets goes long to Brahimi. Real's having an absolute shocker at left back. They've got in again, this time they have scored. It's such a poor goal to concede. 1-0 down with 33 gone. I think this is the end of our European run, isn't it? Well, if ever you wanted to see the difference when you get to knockout football, 28% possession, we've been largely played off the park. If they were a bit more ruthless in hitting the target, they could have been 2 or 3 up here. As we go into the second half though, it's not the worst for Danish football. Midtjylland still 0-0, Brøndby still 1 up as well. And now it's got even worse. Tobias Beck is knackered. And he is the only first team player, and the only first team level player even, that we've got in this attacking line. He's going to have to come off now, and we're going to rely on super sub Jurchen Rothman. I'm going to take Nowicki off too. Antoine Hackford is coming in to be the saviour. Park will go out to the right hand side. He'll be an inverted winger on attack. And then in midfield, I don't really know what else to do. And Yembi's struggling at right back and he's been injured, so I feel it has to be him. Oscar Burr on for him. He's leaving in the summer as well, out of contract. Rejected a couple of moves his way, but it is going to be a matter of time. And here come the visitors again. Canute down the right hand side. Amaro plays a 1-2. They look like they're playing in second gear. That's the worst thing about it. They look like they could flick a switch and score at will. And carve us open whenever they want. They're just waiting for the perfect opportunity. As Busquets in the middle, not that one, to Canute. Up to the goal scorer. Brahimi back in. 2-0. Game over. Those two combine again. And with a quarter of the game to go, this is a big, big job. Lerche beating at his near post. That's harsh on him. That's a one-on-one. You don't save that. With 3 shots on target, they've scored 2 goals. And we are letting down Danish football tonight. Midtjylland doing their bit. Brøndby doing more than their bit. We're not doing a lot. Going to be a very tough job to come back from this. As we head into stoppage time, no sign of a goal. No real sign of a goal threat. Midtjylland missed a penalty to lead away from home. But that was a really disappointing night. What a way for things to start falling apart. Let's get through the dressing room because it just wasn't good enough. All we can hope is when we come back next time, David Palmer makes a big difference to that attack. And he's fit to start because we've seen his record before. A 2-0 defeat, a disappointing one at home. Let's have a look at the schedule for when it's going to be back. As it looks like we're probably going to be the first Danish side to bow out of Europe this year. Well, it looks like the next episode will see our European adventure come to an end. We will show that on camera, as well as one of the games either side. Maybe the away game will be a bit trickier, but I feel like with a Monday night there, we've got more rest. So I think we'll do the next 2 games so I can show you the reserves against AGF. Can they bounce back? Can they keep us in the title race? And to see how the other Danish sides get on too, particularly the ones that played in Europe. After that, the big focus is the Cup this year, because it's the one domestic trophy I haven't won, and it's the reason I didn't end the save last summer, in addition to wanting to play in Europe. So if we can win the Danish Cup, we've probably got a decision to make. But for today, that was so disappointing. Let me know your thoughts on it down in the comments. I was really underwhelmed by our performance, and you can see we've lost a lot of our attacking threat. Can David Palmer save us next time? Are you optimistic enough to believe that? Let me know down in the comments. If you did enjoy the episode and seeing us get, well, humbled, I think it's fair to say, please do chuck a thumbs up on it and subscribe for daily FM22 content. Back with Brighton tomorrow. You can see that series up in the eye above, as well as our latest top 3 with more FM23 save ideas. My series announcements are coming very soon as well. And there's also a link up there to the Twitch channel, where we're live today and we'll be live tomorrow with more F1 Manager. Finally, you can find links to everything else and ways to support the channel in the description below. But thank you very much for watching as always. Hopefully the next one won't be as disappointing. I'll see you back here next time to find out. But in the meantime, see our latest top 3 above my head now.